Making a strong impression in a job interview can actually go both ways. And in today's video, I'm going to give you some visual clues when it comes to making a better impression in a job interview. One of the benefits of virtual on-site interviews is you no longer need to do that awkward handshake. In fact, during these virtual interviews, there is a sort of handshake, and the more technical of you will know that, to establish a connection between 2 points, there is, handshake protocol going on there. But even further in a job interview, there are a couple of, I would say, maybe 15 up to 15 seconds when, you establish that first impression with the interviewer. And there you, of course, want to avoid at all costs being disengaged, boring, and as you couldn't care less about the conversation, but you'd rather be more welcoming or more smiling or having, an attitude that you are looking forward to this conversation. This one you might not be aware of, and of course, I'm exaggerating here, but you should avoid touching your face when talking to someone because you will create unwanted distractions from that actual conversation. In these YouTube videos, I always stare at the camera as my main strategy to win over your attention. And a job interview is also, to a certain extent, a quest to win over the interviewer. And the main reason why I'm saying this is because you should be aware there's strategies you want to employ to keep an eye contact with this interviewer. So if you don't know anything about this, then maybe, make a couple of tests, even use my free role-play service with someone, and just in order to see, what's the best way, how you feel the most comfortable engaging into a conversation with an interviewer. During a traditional on-site interview, the recommended posture is to stand with your back straight and, something like this, a bit more formal. However, in a video call, and when shooting video, actually the recommended posture is not that ergonomic. Actually, if you lean a bit more forward, you will look a lot more engaged in the conversation. So this is also a subtle trick that you might want to use if you need this in your exchange with your interviewer. Hand gestures are something, that took me some time to embrace, but I definitely believe they're an excellent idea. There's a minimal amount of testing you would want to do before using this method. There's also a couple of more advanced elements of how you should play with your hands in order to send the right type of message. But all in all, this is a very good advice, especially for digital experiences, because here, it's a lot more likely, the engagement part is a lot more relevant when compared to an actual on-site interview. In a job interview, the candidate is the one supposed to be talking for the most part. However, there will be times where the interviewer will have to explain you something. Maybe there's a more complex question, maybe there's a complex follow-up question, and that's where when you want to show support of the interview, you want to nod with your head at all whenever you can, or you want to say yes or aha, or the idea is to show support, to be supportive of them, because this is, a subtle way to increase your chances of winning them over. Another interesting method to win over your interviewer is to mirror their behaviors. And some go as far as to even breathe with the same intensity as their interviewer. Now, what you could also do is to pay attention to how fast they speak. And if you realize that you're speaking quite fast and their response is slower, then probably you need to slow down a little bit. Also, the posture is something that you would want to pay close attention to, because maybe there's something you would want to mirror from their behavior there. But needless to say, this is a very powerful element that you must pay attention to throughout the conversation. Even if your potential employer doesn't enforce a strict dress code policy in their company, for a job interview, I found it useful to be even slightly overdressed for these events. Now, of course, here there are some exceptions. Like, for example, if you're a software developer applying for a remote job with a travel company, then yes, of course, you might want to tailor your dress code for that specific niche job that you're applying to. But in most cases, it's always a good idea to be slightly overdressed for that occasion, simply because, it will help you to convey the message that you're someone, a true professional who's capable of doing the job that you're applying. Being on time is also a very important aspect of making a strong impression in a job interview. And For on-site interview, it's been determined that 8 minutes is where you want to be before the actual interview begins. For remote virtual interviews, I would say that 3 to 5 minutes is just fine if you just join that conversation room. If you do this half an hour sooner, I believe it's overkill. I believe you could definitely use that time much better. On the other extreme, if you show up 1 minute late, you probably know that you risk sending the message that you are unprofessional to a certain extent. Also, what you want to keep in mind is for an on-site interview, you just dress and you just show up. For a remote virtual interview, you not only have to dress, but you also have to ensure you have a background in place. You also have a little bit of lighting, your sound works, your video works. And basically also, ideally, you should have 2 types of connections for redundancy, if at all possible. So these would be my main tips and tricks with regards to making a strong impression during a job interview. And of course, always keep in mind that most of these can also be tested with some friends in the mirror, or even by using my free roleplay service with other candidates preparing for such job interviews. Thank you very much for watching.